This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Welcome back to another episode of the Talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
My name is Monty Moore with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and I'm Carrie Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Every week we'll be posting a new episode chock full of Nashville real estate value.
Yes, and you can follow along and subscribe at thetalkmusiccity.com.
Got a question for us? Ask away at questions@talkmusiccity.com. That's questions@talkmusiccity.com.
Money.
Carrie Ann, it's a time of the year where we like to get everybody thinking about being safe,
Yes.
So we've brought on the show today, including Mr. Jason Hoover. Thank you, Jason, for being here. We brought
Thank
Mr.
you, Jason.
Brink Fidler of Defend Systems.
Welcome, Brink.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being back here. Like I shared earlier, I took so many pages of notes and started implementing those immediately. So I'm excited for him to be back here because a refresher is so important.
Well, and
safety,
it's really
safety first.
We live, I don't know if anybody's noticed or not, but we live in kind of a crazy world. So let's be mindful. Let's be intentional. Let's think about putting our phones down at times when we're out and about and just being aware of our surroundings. I think that's a lot of it. But before we get into all that, let's talk about our sponsor, Music City Removal.
Yes, Music City Removal. They are the #1 junk removal service in Nashville from residential, commercial, and construction. They're experts in ridding you of junk. Their costs include labor and dumping fees without any hidden or added expenses. Whether you need a full clean out or just one item removed, they have you covered.
The Music City Removal team knows the importance of respect and trust while in someone else's home. They understand the inconvenience of junk left behind by previous homeowners and tenants and are determined to provide an affordable, customer-focused junk removal service that puts you first. For a free on-site estimate, just go to musiccityremoval.com. That's musiccityremoval.com.
Yes, Music City Removal, because clutter ain't cute.
And Jason, no offense, but man, she does it better than you do, dude. On that part.
Too funny. We got some added effects here. So fun.
Every time that
Jim is on a roll today. Look at him go.
Whenever he's got some tough shoes to fill when you're not here, Carrie Ann.
Well, I think he does a good job.
He does an amazing job. I'll tell you, he does an amazing job.
He does an amazing job. Well, Brink, excited to have you with us again. Defend Systems. Share with us about the company.
Let's talk about your background.
Yeah, remind everybody.
You were a police officer for how long?
Correct. So for 18 years, I was with Metropolitan Nashville Police Department,
okay,
as well as the Drug Task Force in Nashville, and retired as the director of the Drug Task Force when I decided to get out. So, narcotics guys.
Was it because there was nothing to do is why you decided to get out? It's like, well, everybody's perfect now.
I was actually running all over the country kicking in doors, which was fun. It's not real conducive to family life, as you can imagine.
Sure.
But the security consulting field was kind of an obvious choice for me, because if you guys think about what narcotics guys do, they get paid to break in places every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Often forcefully, but sometimes surreptitiously, right? You have to sneak in, get out. So it's your job to defeat most security measures there are. You look at physical security differently than most people, right? More so than the guy that's been to school for it or whatever. We went to the school of doing it, getting through it around it.
It's kind of like when we sell a home as realtors, we're looking at, how to somebody, we're thinking about, how hard is this going to be to resell this house? We're looking for the flaws, we're looking for the strengths, we're looking for all that.
So it's really the school of hard knocks.
All right. Yeah.
School of hard knocks.
Yeah.
Hey, where's my whip?
Yeah.
There you go. Get that done. I love it.
I did it for you. Yeah, so that's, we do, during non-COVID times, most of our business is active shooter mitigation training for schools, corporations, healthcare, nonprofits, law firms, dentist offices, you name it.
Don't tell me that COVID is so scary that even it scares tough guys like you. Is that why you said prior to?
Oh no, because that requires people to gather in groups.
I'm just
for
kidding.
us to train them.
I'm just kidding. I've heard it's such a scary virus that it's scared colds and flu and cancer and a dying old age. It scared all those things away. Anyhow, we won't go down there. I'm sorry.
So and then the other part is the consulting stuff. We still do some training, and we're training a preschool here next week after that. But the consulting side, especially for the issues that we see today, right? People that weren't real security minded or didn't have concerns, now all of a sudden do, right? I mean, I've got friends that would have sworn off firearms. They're like, there will never be a gun in my house, ever have called me and going, what gun should I buy? You know, and where can I get trained? And that's a shame.
Being trained is key, doing it the right way.
Oh, yeah.
So you hit a really sensitive note, I think, for a lot of folks. When that question, if I asked you that question today, well, how would you answer that? I mean, I know it's a personal deal as far as what gun you would choose. Those kind of things are where you might go. But, I mean, how do you answer that?
It depends on the person and the situation, right? I mean, and who's going to be the primary user of that firearm? Mm-hmm. Is it primarily for home defense versus are we going to carry the weapon, right? An AR-15 platform is not great for strapping on your back and going to work, Right. So it really depends on the application. But for broad use, most people that I work with or that have worked with over the last several months end up leaning towards a Glock 9mm of some sort. Mm-hmm. My life depended on a Glock, so I'm a big fan of them. Not that that's not the only gun. There's tons of great guns out there, but I'm a fan of those.
It's really more, I guess, of a personal decision as far as what gun you do get and what you're going to do with it, if you're going to carry it all the time, how you're going to carry it, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like Carrie said, the training is, they don't require it in Tennessee anymore. I mean, you can go get your handgun carry permit online now. You can pay $50 and watch a video and get your permit.
That's crazy.
But
crazy.
Yeah, if you're going to be carrying one, and obviously that comes with the potential of using it, then training would be pretty critical in my mind.
Well, carrying a gun is one option. I don't carry a gun. I don't choose to. I would probably shoot people I shouldn't shoot. I just feel like that me and a gun should not be together.
You just carry a big stick, right?
I mean, I just...
A big battery.
No, I've got this brick of a battery. I've got my weapon with me. But there are other things that you can do just for safety, right? As real estate agents, possibly females or men, right?
Yep,
I mean,
absolutely.
At this point, it goes for all parties.
Yeah. But you can't say men or women now, can you? I'm just kidding.
My goodness.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.
We're getting back on track. So,
But to that point, I mean, that's a good point. Is outside of guns, what would you say is good for people to carry?
Mace. I did mace.
Yeah, chemical spray, mace, pepper spray, whatever you call it. It's got a lot of different names. There's
4-inch heels.
Would that be better than
Stilettos.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
I don't think it's going to work for him.
No.
No, I mean,
You take me
4-inch
down.
heels. But
what about the tasers?
So
Yes,
taser is a
tasers.
fantastic, and an actual taser, not a stun gun, but like a taser you see law
There's the
enforcement.
difference. See, I didn't know
Yeah,
there's
explain the difference because
So
I think
a stun gun is what you see on the movies. They walk up and touch you with, and you just flop over.
and it has the
No, that's a taser.
Oh, okay.
So what you see law enforcement shooting people with,
Okay.
and they flop over,
Yeah.
with the darts coming out. That's a taser. Those are fantastic tools. You got to be careful with them. They're as expensive. Actually, they're more than a firearm. I mean, they're very expensive, but it's a good alternative. A stun gun requires you to touch the person, right, which means they can be close enough to touch you
to
too.
grab it.
So I hate those. That and they don't hurt. I mean, the taser itself, when you pull the cartridge off, it has that feature to be able to drive stun somebody, which is pain compliance, but. I mean, we used to zap each other in the leg. It's not that bad.
Shake it off.
I mean,
It's like the
just not
shock for the dog. You just shake it off.
you're not going to drop. Now, shooting them, though, with the darts, oh, yeah, you'll drop them like a ton of bricks. So, harder to conceal. Mainly, it's bigger, a little bit bigger.
It's probably
than a
not
firearm.
realistic, though, a stun gun, isn't it?
A taser.
Light
No,
taser, yeah.
I mean, you're talking
Possibly at your home, if you weren't a fan of a gun, you wanted something different.
Sure.
You could feel like you could protect your family. Yeah. I
And
know
it's-
some people that have it.
It's instant, right? Whereas chemical spray is not. Chemical spray is terrible. Don't get me wrong. I've been sprayed. Oh, it's awful. But it doesn't take effect instantly, right?
Sure.
Taser is instant.
What's the strongest from a standpoint of chemical spray?
Oh, freeze plus P is what I would tell everybody.
Freeze plus P.
Plus P. We used to carry that at the police department. And then we had to stop when we got tasers. Actually, it's funny you brought that up because allegedly the propellant in freeze plus P is flammable. So they didn't want us spraying somebody and then tasing them and catching them on fire. And of course, my argument to the chief was, if I've sprayed you and I still have to tase you, I want you on fire. Right? Like,
That's true.
That's terrible. But it is awful. And freeze really affects affects the person's ability to breathe, which takes the fight out of anybody, right? I mean, a lot of them do, but I have personal experience with that one. And, yeah.
Well, you just, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember last time you were on, you mentioned that. And so I went in and watched YouTube videos of it, of people getting sprayed. Yeah, I don't want to experience that.
No.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's worse than a taser. Taser hurts worse, but it's over in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, chemical spray is like 45 minutes, and then when you get home and take a shower, it reactivates because it's crystallized all over your body. And, it's terrible. For bad guys too.
So how does that come in a little dispenser? I mean,
different sizes. I mean, they've got huge ones that look like a miniature fire extinguisher. You
like family size or something?
Yeah. Well, you remember the shooting at the mall the movie theater in Hickory Hollow turned out to be an air gun, but anyway, he had a shootout with SWAT and got killed. He had a big one, and a lot of times they're sold as bear spray, right? But it's just a huge thing. A chemical spray is all that is. So you can get them in like fire extinguisher size.
Wow.
But if you do it at home or in a confined space, you need to leave because it'll affect you too very quickly.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're only spraying that just like your home insurance. You're only using it when it's a major deal. You know, we don't want to be spraying it just because, right? So
no, ma'am.
That's really important. But there's other things, and I'd love for you to give a refresher because for those that missed it, because I want to say it was so many months back, right? Time's been flying in 2020. But, you know, many real estate agents that are listening out there are doing open houses. They're doing mega open houses, which are bringing in a lot of people. And that can bring in randoms off the street, right? I mean, I'm surprised still we're not doing, do you do by appointment? No, right? You don't do that.
It's being shown one at a time.
But meaning,
for the open houses, no.
Right. So it's not like you have any of their information. It could be just anybody random jumping in the crowd, right?
Yeah.
Coming in that home and planting. I mean, I've watched enough Criminal Minds over the last few weeks to know what can actually happen.
Hiding under a table or something.
Yeah, I mean, they can like keep a window open, right? I mean, I'm just coming up with things that I've learned through the show.
Do you have a theme?
They could do a lot.
Song on that?
I know.
Dum, dum.
Yeah, but there's a lot that can happen, and then you go, oh my goodness. So you're always wanting to look behind you, right? Or prepare yourself. So for those that are home alone, you know, and or single moms, you know, or just anybody.
Yeah.
It's really good to be aware of your surroundings at all times. Yes.
100%. Yes. Agreed. And how many videos have we all seen of Lord knows what happened to people walking down the street that are looking at their phones, right? Just because awareness is gone. We're an instant gratification society. If we can't get it in one button on our phone, then, you know, so it's hard to retrain the brain to do that. But you guys have a lot of vulnerabilities as realtors. Really 3 main areas that I consider. Number one, the office space, right, being one. And then the fine line you have to draw, which is hard for a lot of you guys, between your public persona and your personal life. You want to be out there, right? And you want your gorgeous headshot on everything on the planet so people will hire you. But you got to balance that with how much of yourself you put out there. I mean, where do you think stalkers come from? So, and there is a balance to it. But your most vulnerable would be showings and open houses. I think we'd all agree with that, even though I'm not a realtor. It's hello. So there's a lot of things you can do there. Whether it's a private showing or an open house, don't pull into the driveway where you can be blocked in, period. Like park on the street, whatever that takes. Just
huge, something so simple, you know?
You never know when you're going to have to leave in a hurry. I mean,
Right.
Y'all probably notice I back in everywhere I go. But so that's a big one.
I thought it was because you thought maybe it'll snow and you wanted to make sure you could get in.
Yes, that's right. All the snow in Middle Tennessee.
Too funny.
And never hesitate to have somebody go with you. You know, there's
Buddy system, yeah.
Yeah, on open houses, you know, we teach to have multiple people there, a minimum of 2 people, if not more. And then, you know, even showing houses, if you can, it's great. Because there's sometimes I will go with Mindy when she's meeting a new client, just out of, you know, being safe.
Right.
And so, you know, don't hesitate to do that.
And or I find myself not even going to open houses, but I find myself calling somebody, like a live person on the other line, if I'm going into something that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah.
Sometimes
To be
just,
on the phone when you're walking in.
sometimes even just going to the kitchen at a certain time at night. Like literally, sometimes the dog's growling. I'm like, why are you growling? Do you know something I don't know? And possibly he does. I'm like, hello, I'm going to go to the kitchen now, just in case, Again, I watch too many Criminal Minds, but I think it's important. All of this is important.
Well, and don't become numbed, to the fact that we're all are watching all this kind of extreme stuff on TV. I think we should be, again, that should encourage us to be mindful of what things can happen. And again, that's why I wanted to have Brink on here today. So let's talk about you're showing a house. You've gotten there. Well, first of all, you started with don't park in the driveway.
Right.
Now, should you get there early to scope things out, or how important is that?
Oh yeah. Prior to that, you need to basically case the neighborhood. You need to understand. You need to know your way around that neighborhood, at least for several blocks. You need to know whether or not there's a privacy fence, across the back. So if you do have to, for whatever reason, flee and not towards your vehicle, you need to know whether or not you're going to be trapped when you do that. I mean, all these kind of things that are so easy to do. It just all takes a few minutes to drive around and take a look. Look at a map. If your brain doesn't work well with maps, then physically drive the neighborhood. I would actually do both, because as quickly as things change, especially in Middle Tennessee, what's on a map may not be the way that neighborhood is anymore. Right. But you don't have to know every flipping street, but familiarize yourself with it. I call it locational awareness, but what's really good too is to know your north, south, east, and west of that, right? Because if you do have to call for help, especially 911, you know what house you are at, and if you're fleeing and you're hoping they come get you, you need to know what direction you're fleeing, because every first responder in the country knows their area of responsibility that way, right? They may not know where 3116 Inverness is, but they'll know where Inverness is, and if you say I'm running north from that location, they can come to you like that, right?
I never thought about that before.
So it's easy to do. I mean, look at a map. It's not hard to do. But those are the two kind of main things I would do ahead of time with the parking and the kind of case it.
Do you say anything to the neighbors?
Once you get there, I encourage people to go introduce yourself to the neighbors. First of all, it's another potential client down the road. Number two, you're saying, hey, I'm going to be over here showing a house. Just wanted you to know there's going to be traffic here. I'll make sure they don't block your driveway, whatever. But you're also putting somebody on notice that you're there.
Yeah, I love that. Just make them aware, Yeah, that's so true.
So, and I hate to think about this, but what if something did happen and you are kidnapped? Are there tactics, things that we should know or be prepared for?
Do not go with them unless you're unconscious. It doesn't matter. Like, if they pull a gun on you, do not ever leave with somebody unless you have to fight, because there are so many instances where there's a minute number of instances where somebody survives that, right? It's just minute. So you can't, obviously the things to do are, we're going to set it up to avoid that. Sure.
Right.
And we can, right? There's tons of stuff we can do to keep it from ever getting to that.
Yes, that is true. But, just knowing people, they're not going to go through all of that. They won't canvass a neighborhood. But if they did get kidnapped, what would be good for them to know?
Well, tons of stuff. Of course, it depends on the method, right? Are you being restrained or not? There's a lot of videos out there you can look up just on the internet on how to get out of certain restraints. It's not that complicated. Yeah. Most bad guys don't think through that process, but always be looking for a way out no matter what. I just can't reiterate enough. Always fight whatever it is. Do not be compliant. I don't care what they're threatening you with. You're just, the chances of survival are super slim, and at least if you fight, you have a chance, right? Gotcha. You don't be compliant. But a lot of things we went over last time, the buddy system. But if you can't have that, then I like a webcam, set up and put the people on notice that are coming in and saying, hey, just FYI.
Yeah, that's so good. I wrote that down. I'm writing it down again. That was a good one. I think everybody should have a webcam on.
And just
like
tell
recording
of
who's coming in. So you have that face. Because if something does happen, that's easier.
Yeah, for both of our safeties, we've got this going.
Yeah, you can even tell them, we're using this to train new new realtors coming in on
Right.
what an open house looks like.
Right.
They couldn't be here, especially now. You got an excuse with COVID, right?
Right.
Can't have a crowd here, but that puts them on notice immediately that number one, there's a camera. Number two, they're on it, right? And a criminal's worst fear is going to prison, right? Is getting caught.
Right.
Showing their face. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're hopeful that you're not that smart. You know, I'm looking it up. What's it cost? What's it cost to buy a webcam? Shouldn't be that much,
no.
right?
Not that much.
Yeah. Let's get some webcams. Let's figure this
So,
out.
what do you think about
Cams.
hitting your emergency button on your car and having your car squawking out there? Does that?
I mean, anything to draw
Noise,
attention
yeah.
is helpful. However, as a society, we're so desensitized to those that nobody really looks anymore.
Right.
But there is one those that you can add to your keychain that is like piercing, obnoxious. That is, will at least turn some heads. Like, what the heck? That sounds different, than your car, right?
But no, there's nothing quite like somebody screaming for help to get real attention. And if you need it, you are. But some other things I do in the house are unlock all the doors. Give yourself multiple egress ways out. If somebody's actually after you in a house, you'll never get both locks undone. Your hands will be shaking, right? Fine motor skills go out the window under stress, right? That's, I mean, cops and soldiers can still shoot and fight because those are gross motor skills, but I can't say where I was, but I was somewhere of somebody very important in this town going over some stuff with them, their security perimeter fencing, and they were talking about putting, the combination locks on them. And I'm like, if somebody's trying to kill you, you're never going to be able to do that under stress. Like, it's terrible. Right. So give yourself ways out. If it's a 2-story house, I'd even unlatch a window in each one of the bedrooms, always let the person go. And we talked about this beforehand, but if you're showing it, let them lead, right? Down here's the master, go ahead. Don't walk in front of them. Don't give them a chance to be behind you.
Don't go into a room by yourself without them going in first.
I like to stay in the hall, let them enter the room. And then if it's like a huge master and they're going to go in the master bath, then sure, let them go on in. But you're still leaving yourself some egress to get out of there. And off the bat which doors are unlocked, which window you left unlatched, and you can give yourself a way out. I mean, that's in the stuff we teach is an acronym for DEFEND, which is deter, evade, fortify, evaluate, notify, and defend. But if you notice, deter is first, which is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about stopping it before it ever happens. But a close second, if it does, is evade. So giving yourselves multiple ways to do that and avoid the threat altogether, whatever that looks like. But give yourself tons of options for that, not just one or two.
Yeah, if I'm just get goosebumps because to think about sometimes I do some things and you're like, that was not safe, I should have totally did that differently, and you're just lucky that this one, and you keep doing that and you're like, it's never going to happen to me. And then it can, you hear these stories in the news and it's not here or didn't happen here, but it could have happened here,
We had a bomb go off a few weeks ago, in Nashville. I mean, that's one of those things, well, it never happened in Nashville, and wow, it happened in Nashville. So, those kind of things can happen. Didn't something happen with you one time?
Yeah, I got robbed at the Babies R Us, with my kid.
Yeah.
That she was in the crate still. And he was coming after me for what he thought was an iPad or whatever, but I remember, to a point where you lose your mind too. Like I left my kid. Like, you just don't do what you think you're going to do. So you're right. You're not going to know how to do anything, open doors or whatever. So, so smart, being able to keep
and again,
all
that's part of it is
open.
being aware, being intentional, having an idea when you get there and being in control. I think that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Yes. And the other thing is, regardless, whether it's an occupied home or an unoccupied home, you need to clear that entire house before anybody gets there. So you need to check closets and make sure there's not somebody in there, right?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, they're obviously, evil is very real. I used to deal with it, but we all know that. You can turn on the news and, it doesn't take that long. It's really about changing habits. I mean, you had said that, they're not going to do it. Well, okay. But if we get intentional about it and it becomes habit, then we will do it, so.
Right.
But I'm just saying the majority of them will not.
Yeah.
If we're just being real.
Sure.
And it's interesting that they don't, meaning instead of driving this way, you drive that way and you kind of, figure it out. Or you walk into or drive into neighborhood A and you're like, this is so sweet and cute. And
Yeah.
But it's that very reason, Jason, I wanted to have him on again to help refresh.
Right.
And this is a topic that it's not comfortable. We don't want to think about bad things, all that. But the world hasn't gotten any less crazy over the last 6 months, to my knowledge.
Right.
It's gotten worse. And so to be mindful, intentional, if you're going to be in this business, you're going to work with people. And there's some people out there that are not good people. Just recently, one of our agents got what she thought was a hot lead call and was $2 million buyer. I don't know if you remember her talking about that. And she was so excited about it. And first thing she did is call her sister to tell her about it. And she goes, well, what's the guy's name and number? And so she gives it to her, and she, within 2 minutes, she looks it up, and, well, this is a bad guy. This guy's been wanted for this and for that. And it's like, we just are just such a naive society sometimes, because especially when you start thinking about, well, somebody's going to buy a $2 million home, they've got to have their, you just immediately qualify in your minds, well, they've got to be a good person and solid and all that, not realizing they're just playing that role, so that you get all excited about it and stop thinking. Because she wasn't thinking, it was her sister that caused her to start thinking. So that's why you have to talk about some of these things sometimes. So
with all the commotion that's been going on over the last couple of years and the bringing to light about real estate safety, has anything changed at all where if you are going to go with somebody, do you get their ID before? Do you press that they should get pre-approved for financing prior to? Is there anything, has any changes have been made since, the sad stories that we've heard across the United States?
Some agents have. I think some agents do require, it's because I've Jason and I have suggested that, look, just use your broker as an excuse, that it's company policy that you send us a snap of your license or something like that, we also talk about having a safe word. We also talk about being on the phone when they walk into a home. Those kinds of things. So there's some additional accountability and a connection if there's not two of them. But I think Jason's comment about being more than one person at a time, I think that's probably one of the smartest things to do to avoid those kind of conflicts. But how often do people go out there by themselves and to show a home because it's just one house or just meeting at one house? And unfortunately, a lot of us don't meet at the office for those pre-qualifications. We just meet at the property. Right. In real life, that's what happens.
Yeah. And that's where we just become so used to how it was. And even though these major things occurred, I'm surprised that major changes have not become more of a habit, to double check ourselves.
Well, it's like, active shooters. They're so common now. They get, a few news cycles and then they're gone. We had 4 in a week, 2 weeks before 4th of July this year. Did you guys hear about any of them?
No.
And so it's the same
Here
thing.
In Nashville?
No, just across the country.
Okay.
But it's desensitization, right?
Right.
No matter what. And it's back to these, right? The devices. It's constant news feed. It's a constant feed of information, and we're just constantly filtering in and out what it is that we take in. And so the whole, you hit on it earlier, it's not going to happen here. You ask anybody that's ever lived through one of those situations, they always say, I never thought it could happen to me. And so again, it's about changing habits. You're not, you don't want to scare the crap out of people. It's not, I don't fear monger. That's not what I do. I empower people. Right. That's what that's what this is all about. My goal is empowering people, to make them aware that things happens every year. I know somebody who was attacked at an open house one time. It's always stuck with me that, oh my gosh, that this is real. Yeah. I think it's sometimes until we connect like that, maybe we don't think it is. But so I think you're working on not a class, but a program for safety for people like us, for realtors. Yeah, it's a curriculum. That really what I hit on earlier, we're kind of breaking it down into those 3 pieces of your lives, right? Your office safety, and then your balance of personal life and professional life as far as social media and things like that go, and then the showings and open houses, and trying to compartmentalize it that way because that helps you guys, because those are the 3 major areas that you guys are going to be running into. But also tying in, almost all the principles that we do in our active shooter or intruder action plan training tie into all this, because the goals are the same, right? Either stop it from happening to begin with, get away from it if you can. If you can't, then you got to do what you got to do. And then being able to, a big thing for us is the medical side. We incorporate that into our training, but we won't in this one. But anybody that goes through the realtor safety class, I think, will be motivated to get some medical training when I'm done. So yeah, we're
How to put on a tourniquet and that kind of stuff.
right. Just some major, just nothing crazy complicated.
No heart surgeries.
No, not yet. That'll be phase 2. But it's such an important life skill, and people are starting to realize that. And stop the bleed classes are free. There's the reason we had an 86% survival rate in Las Vegas is because of bleeding control and pre-hospital care. So I don't want to get off on that tangent, but I have all the video from that event. So every officer's body camera, and I've watched it all, and I was dumbfounded by the numbers because there were over 400 gunshot victims out there.
You're kidding.
Wow.
Most people have no idea there were 413 people were shot.
Wow.
Holy cow, I had no idea.
That's right. And that was the answer. So, but you're far more likely, let's be real, to roll out of here in Cool Springs and come upon a really bad traffic crash, right? Where somebody's arm's fractured and they're severed an artery, whatever, than you ever are an active shooter event. So it is a life skill.
Sure,
We've already got saves under our belts. We're training a bunch of law enforcement across the state in this right now. I was in Jackson all last week doing that. That's a little bit more advanced course, but it's the same thing. The police department in Nashville implemented a medical course in their academy 2 years ago, and they've saved over 200 people in 2 years.
Wow.
It's not difficult stuff. So, anyway, that'll kind of be on the back end, but the front end will be those 3 compartments and kind of what to do with some real life examples, and kind of walk. A lot of people are visual learners, right? Visual, tactile, and audio learners. So, we'll have some maps talking about what we mean and some pictures showing, this neighborhood is privacy fence city. You guys have seen those, right? I mean, you're jumping 9 privacy fences to get out, some things like that to really just kind of hit home for them. And then we're going to put it on video to make it available. Our other training's on video already, and, in a learning management system. So we're going to do the same thing with this realtor one and add it to the program. So I'll certainly circle back around with you when it's. Yeah,
please do. I'm really interested in getting that information out to all of our team members, here at Realtor One Group Music City. I just think that that's just an important part, So,
I think the office space that you were sharing is key. I'm over in a corporate office space, and we had an incident where a gentleman came off the street because we're right near the interstate, and walked right up and went into not our building, thank goodness, our side, but to the other side, and stole 5 purses. Just walked like a normal consumer and walked in and just grabbed the purses, And now we keep our doors locked. We have strategies in place on that. But you would never think that a random person would just come up, and how confident. That's the thing. They have this confidence and this arrogance that they're like, I'm just going to go in and try.
Yeah.
Wow. And, you don't know what could have happened from that. But office space is, you just assume you walk in and it's completely safe. And I know you've got videos and things of protection and the locks turn on and off, et cetera, et cetera. But that's important too, to know about the office space. So great information. So we talked today about buddy system, so important, knowing your surroundings. I love keeping all the windows and doors open, taking a moment to drive through the neighborhood to see reference to a neighbor, let them know you're having an open house, let them know you're possibly by yourself so they know. Yes?
Oh, you don't know who you're talking to.
I know, so no, do that.
I would.
Might be a bad neighbor.
86, that idea. Cross that off the list. Don't do that. But at least let them know an event's happening, right?
Yes.
Have some sort of safety protection, whether that is, what did we call Freeze Plus?
Freeze Plus.
Just don't freeze yourself. That's what I picked up on that.
It's terrible.
Right? Yeah. Mace and or another, if you are licensed to have, a handgun of some sort. Something like that. So, and I love the webcam thing. I think that's really important, right? Because not only are you protecting yourself, but you're also protecting the other families that are walking in, because you just never know who could just walk off the street.
Correct.
Great information.
Brink, before we hang up here,
yes,
we're living in January 2021. I know everybody was excited to get out of 2020, and I heard this morning that 2021 just said, well, wait a minute, just hold my beer. I'll show you what it's all about,
Want to hear that today. I love it.
And so just a quick 2 minutes. Let's think about, there's crazy talk out there, who knows what. Part of my mission here is to get people thinking that gee, it'd be nice to not have to be at the mercy of Kroger's tomorrow if there's a shortage of toilet paper. Okay, do you get into that at all in your world as far as any sort of preparation? I won't say prep because I'm not some sort of wild prepper, but I am a believer that it's crazy times. Let's make sure we're okay.
Yes. So yeah, that's one of the things we do on the consulting side. Is whether it be existing or new construction, design safe rooms, contents, manage those contents for you. If if that's something, because water it's only good for so long, and same with a lot of the food. But I think everybody, there's a great adage in that world that is eat what you store and store what you eat. Right. So don't go buy a bunch of stuff you're not going to eat, or vice versa, because it needs a constant rotation. Right. But have at least 2, if not 4 weeks of food, non-perishable on hand, that it's not an issue for you. Same with water. And that's a lot of water, y'all. I mean, so storage space becomes an issue. Right. But, under the gun, some quick things you can do are fill up all your bathtubs, right? If it's happening fast, obviously your water heater's full of water and things like that. But I think if 2020 taught us nothing else, it was the need for personal responsibility and preparation. I'm not saying you have to go buy 40,000 rounds of ammo and 15 guns
no, but we live in an area that we could have an ice storm tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
and you're stuck. And we learned it last year. That there's toilet paper can be used as money. At certain times.
Closing gifts.
We've done that.
That's awesome.
So I'm not going to tell you that my mother-in-law did have a toilet paper Christmas tree this year. Did she not make it? And that was her. That's her spot. That's her spirit.
So I just want to make sure that we're reminding people, to just the small things. I've been saying that for a while. Look, make sure you can live a couple of weeks without having to go to Kroger's, because the problem is, the reality is, we live in a society that most folks can't last it more than a day or two, because we're used to, I just pick it up on the way home. I just pick it up on the way home and not worry about it. Or have them deliver it, like that's what we're doing now as well.
Well, how many people did you guys hear say, "Oh my God, I'm never going through this again"? And then 99% of those people,
go back to their old habits.
Exactly. That was what we hit on before, right? It's about changing your habits, and that's that's up to you. Nobody else is going to make you change your habit.
That's right. Well, thank you, sir. It's been great to see you again.
Thank you
I appreciate
again.
the
And thank you,
information.
everybody, for tuning in. We can't wait to have you back. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.